Hello friends. About 99% of friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and helps the channel grow. Also, let me know in the comments from which country you are watching the video. Alright folks, buckle up because what I'm about to tell you ain't no ordinary trucker's tale. This is the kind of story that'll make you think twice before hitting those long, lonely stretches of highway at night. I swear to God, I ain't one for tall tales, but if you're sitting there with a cup of coffee, curious about what kind of weird stuff can go down out here on the open road, then buckle up, 'cause what I'm about to tell you ain't something you'll forget. It was around 2:37 in the morning, pitch black stretch of I-70 somewhere in Colorado. Just me, my 18-wheeler, and an empty highway that looked like it stretched straight into the mouth of hell. The kind of quiet that ain't peaceful. It's the kind that presses on your ears, makes every creak in the cab feel like it's screaming. I was hauling a load of industrial piping cross-country, same route I've driven 100 times. But this trip, man, this trip felt different from the start. I noticed it the second I crossed into the mountain range. Fog started rolling in like some slow-moving creature, thick and greasy. Didn't move right when my headlights hit it. I remember leaning forward, squinting, trying to get a better view when I saw her. A woman standing dead center in the road wearing a pale blue dress that looked soaked through, hair hanging like seaweed, just staring at my truck with eyes that didn't blink. I slammed the brakes so hard I thought I'd snap the rig in half. Everything inside the cab flew forward. Coffee, logbook, my damn lunch cooler. The truck skidded, tires screaming on wet asphalt, but by the time I came to a full stop, she was gone. Not walked off, not ran, just gone. Like fog swallowed her. My heart was pounding in my chest like a damn jackhammer. I sat there, half expecting her to reappear in my mirror or knock on the window. I even climbed down and looked around with my flashlight, calling out like a damn fool. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Nothing. Just the sound of my own boots, crunching gravel and the low, idle rumble of the engine. I told myself maybe I imagined it. Lack of sleep, too much caffeine, whatever. I climbed back into the cab, locked the doors without thinking, and pushed on. But the air in that truck was heavy like the ghost of her was sitting in the passenger seat. Every shadow outside looked like her. Every squeak and groan the truck made felt like a whisper, and I swear, when I hit mile marker 133, the radio kicked on by itself, full volume static. Then her voice came through clear as day. "You should have stopped." I damn near drove off the road. I ripped the radio out of the dash, wires sparking, hands shaking as I cursed every mile ahead. I had 12 more hours to go, and I already wanted to turn back. But I couldn't. Something told me it wouldn't matter if I turned around. Whatever I'd seen, whatever I'd interrupted, it was coming with me. I tried to shake it off, Tell myself it was a hallucination, stress, overwork, maybe even something I ate. But deep down, I knew better. That woman on the road, she was real. Real in a way that cuts right through your skin and crawls into your bones. About 30 miles later, I pulled into a tiny roadside truck stop. Just one flickering overhead light, 2 diesel pumps, and a diner that looked like it hadn't seen a health inspector since Reagan was in office. I needed coffee. Strong coffee, and maybe someone to talk to who wouldn't think I was going nuts. Inside, the place was near empty except for a cook in a grease-stained apron and a waitress with a smoker's voice who called me Hon before I even sat down. I ordered a black coffee real quick and asked if they'd ever seen anything weird out on the highway lately. She paused, halfway through scribbling my order, and said, "You mean besides the crying woman?" That stopped me cold. "Excuse me?" I asked. She nodded toward the window and said, "You're not the first trucker to see her. Shows up in the road, out of nowhere. Always crying. Always wearing blue." She didn't elaborate, just walked off like it was common knowledge around there. The cook gave me a sideways glance and said, "If you saw her, you need to finish your trip. Don't stop again. Whatever you do, don't pick her up if she shows up a second time." That was all he said. Nothing else. Just went back to flipping, baking like we weren't talking about a damn ghost that hijacks truckers. I didn't stay long. Drank my coffee fast and got back in the truck. And that's when things got worse. I was maybe 20 minutes back on the road when the fog returned. Heavier this time, and the temperature in the cab dropped like someone opened a freezer. I cranked the heat, but it didn't do a damn thing. Then the smell hit, like wet earth and rotted flowers, like the scent of a grave dug too soon. I looked in the rearview mirror and froze. She was in the sleeper cab, just sitting there staring at me. Pale blue dress, soaked, skin gray and stretched too tight over her bones. Her eyes, black pits that seemed to pull in the dashboard. Lights. I swerved, nearly jackknifed, and shouted, "Get out!" But she didn't move, didn't blink, just whispered, "You didn't stop." Then vanished, like mist. 1 second she was there, next she was gone. But she left something behind, a puddle of muddy water on my bunk. I didn't stop again that night. Not for food, not for gas, not even to piss. I drove white-knuckled with the radio off and my eyes glued to the road, praying I'd make it through the night without seeing her again. But deep down I knew she wasn't done with me, not even close. I made it to my drop-off point just after sunrise, and I'll tell you what, I've never been more relieved to see daylight. The warehouse guy signed off on the load, and I didn't waste time making small talk. I was rattled. My hands were still shaking. I kept glancing over my shoulder like she'd followed me into the daylight somehow. I pulled out of there and parked at a truck stop a few miles down to get some rest. Thought maybe sleep would help clear my head, maybe give me a reset. But that sleep never came. Not the real kind, anyway. The second I shut my eyes, I was back on that highway. Only, this time it wasn't just her. I saw a whole line of them. People standing in the road, men and women, all with hollow eyes and twisted mouths like they were trying to scream but couldn't. I woke up drenched in sweat, heart thumping like I'd run a marathon. And sitting on my dashboard was a blue ribbon, frayed on the edges, wet. I didn't put it there, I didn't even touch it. Just opened the door and flung it out like it was poison. I couldn't explain it, still can't. But I knew right then I was in it deep. This wasn't a one-night scare. This was something that had hitched a ride with me. Something I couldn't just outrun. I called up a buddy of mine, Donnie. He's another long hauler, real old school, carries a Bible in his glove box and swears he's seen stuff out there too. I told him everything, even the parts that made me sound like I'd lost my damn mind. He listened real quiet, then said, "You crossed her path. That crying woman's a road ghost. They don't come for just anybody. You saw her face. That means you're marked now." "Marked for what?" I asked, already feeling sick at the sound of it. "For the long haul," he said. "You'll start seeing things that ain't yours, places that ain't on any map, folks that died out on that road trying to get back home, and her, she ain't done until she finds someone else to take your place." I laughed, but it was hollow. "What the hell am I supposed to do, Donnie?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "Keep moving. Don't stop at mile marker 133 ever again. Don't pick up hitchhikers, and don't, whatever you do, look in your mirror too long at night." I thought he was being dramatic. But that night, leaving the truck stop, I made the mistake of doing just that. Glanced at the mirror just for a second and I saw her again. Closer this time. Closer than before. Right behind my seat. She didn't say nothing. Didn't have to. Her eyes said it all. This ride wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I've been on the road for years now, and through all the miles, all the nights filled with whispers and shadows, one thing's become crystal clear. The highway doesn't just take you places. It takes you. That woman in blue. The cursed ribbon. The fog that swallows the road. They're all parts of something I can't fully explain. Something older than any legend or ghost story. I tried to fight it, tried to outrun it, but the road always calls me back, and she's always there, waiting. The last time I saw her, I was rolling through a stretch of highway that didn't appear on any of my maps, a place where the stars vanished and the air tasted like cold metal. She sat in the passenger seat, quiet this time, staring straight ahead with those empty eyes. I reached over, almost daring to touch her, but the moment my fingers brushed the ribbon tied round her wrist, the world tilted and everything went black. When I came to, I was parked at the edge of a familiar town, dawn breaking over the horizon. The ribbon was gone, and so was she. I don't know if I'm free now, or if she's just waiting for the next ride. But here's what I do know. Out there on those endless highways, some stories aren't just stories, they're warnings. So if you ever find yourself behind the wheel late at night, and you see a woman in a soaked blue dress standing by the road, crying like she's lost everything, don't stop, don't even slow down. Keep your eyes on the road, your hands on the wheel, and drive like hell. Because some passengers aren't looking for a ride. They're looking to take you for you, the ride of your life. And trust me, that ride never ends. Thanks for listening, friends. Stay safe out there on the highway. The more time I spent on the road, the more the lines between reality and nightmare blurred. It wasn't just the woman in blue anymore. Shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, shapes shifting just beyond the beam of my headlights. I started, hearing voices through the static, laughter, crying, and sometimes urgent warnings I couldn't quite catch. Once, near a forgotten stretch of highway in Louisiana, my truck radio burst to life on its own, playing a slow, mournful tune that sent chills down my spine. The song was so old, I recognized it from a record my grandma used to play, a lullaby about lost children. And when the music faded, a voice whispered through the speaker, "Don't look back." I froze, sweat prickling my skin, my knuckles whitening on the wheel. I didn't dare glance in the rearview mirror. Another time, near a desolate rest stop in New Mexico, I stepped outside to stretch my legs. The night was still and silent, but when I looked up, the sky wasn't filled with stars. It was swirling with thick, unnatural fog glowing faintly blue. From that mist emerged dozens of figures, shadowy forms with glowing eyes, all reaching toward me as if begging to be taken along. I slammed the door, locked it tight, and didn't sleep that night. Driving through those haunted miles, I realized that the highway wasn't just a road. It was a living, breathing entity with a dark soul. It fed on fear, loneliness, and the lives of truckers like me who spent too many nights alone. I wanted to quit. I thought about hanging up my keys for good, but every time I tried, the road called me back. The hum of the engine, the endless stretch of asphalt beneath my tires, and that damn whisper in the wind that promised I wasn't finished yet. So if you ever find yourself driving down an empty highway at night and you see a woman in a soaked blue dress standing by the roadside, tears glistening like rain, don't stop. Don't offer her a ride. Keep your eyes on the road, your foot on the gas, and pray you make it through the night. Because some passengers aren't just looking for a lift, they want to ride with you forever. It's funny how the road changes you. I used to think it was just a job, a way to make ends meet, see the country, and maybe catch a sunset or two. But after what I've been through, after all the nights spent clutching the steering wheel while shadows danced just outside my cab, I know the highway's got a darker side. That woman in blue wasn't just a ghost story told to spook rookies. She's real, and she's patient. More patient than anyone could imagine. There was this one night, out near the Mississippi Delta, thick fog rolling in like a living thing. I'd been driving for hours, tired but determined to make the next stop before dawn. The fog muffled every sound except the crunch of my tires on the wet pavement. Then, through the haze, I saw her silhouette, lean and fragile, standing perfectly, still by the side of the road. She held something in her hand, something wrapped in the same blue ribbon I'd been cursed with. I slowed down, my heart pounding like a jackhammer, every instinct screaming at me to keep going. But curiosity's a dangerous thing when you're haunted. Before I could stop myself, I pulled over and stepped out into the cold mist. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and decay, and the silence pressed down like a weight. She didn't move. Just looked at me with those hollow eyes, that mournful expression that somehow held 1,000 sorrows. I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. Then she lifted her hands, offering me the package wrapped in the ribbon. I wanted to refuse, to run back to my truck, but my feet felt like they were glued to the ground. I took the package, and the moment I did, the fog seemed to close in tighter, the shadows growing longer and darker around us. I tore open the wrapping to find a faded photograph inside, an old family portrait, the faces blurred and cracked but unmistakably familiar. It was my family, my wife and kids smiling back at me like they were still waiting at home. But I hadn't sent them any pictures. I hadn't touched any photo like this in years. Fear slammed into me like a freight train. The woman's voice rose then, soft and haunting. You can't leave them behind. That was the night I realized she wasn't just haunting me. She was messing with my mind, my memories, trying to break me down piece by piece. From that moment on, the road felt less like a path and more like a trap. Every mile was a battle between holding on to who I was and letting go to whatever dark force was chasing me. I started seeing other signs too. Strange symbols carved into trees by the roadside, glowing eyes watching from the woods, and trucks that vanished without a trace as if swallowed by the night itself. Some nights I'd catch glimpses of occult, shadowy figures gathered in the dead of night near abandoned gas stations, chanting in a language older than time. They never saw me, but I saw them, and I knew they were tied to the curse. They were the ones keeping her bound to these highways, feeding her power and ensuring no one escaped the road's grip. I've tried everything, changing routes, switching trucks, even stopping for weeks to shake her off. But the curse follows me like a bad smell. It's in the hum of the engine, the flicker of the dashboard lights, even in the quiet moments when the world feels like it's holding its breath. And the worst part? Sometimes late at night I swear I can feel her hand brush against mine, cold and clammy, reaching out to pull me into the darkness beside her. So yeah, I'm a trucker. A simple guy who loves the open road, but I'm also a man haunted by something no one else seems to understand. The next time you're out on the highway, keep your eyes open. Watch the roadside for that blue dress. Because if she catches your eye, if you stop for her, you might just find yourself on the longest, darkest ride of your life, with no way back home. I wish I could say that after all this, I learned to shrug it off, that I got used to the strange things that happen out here on the highway. But it never gets easier. Every night behind the wheel, the shadows press closer, the silence thickens, and the cold presence of that woman in blue seems to settle heavier on my chest. One night, I was hauling through a stretch of highway in West Virginia, twisting through the mountains under a heavy rain. The road was slick, the kind of rain that makes your headlights blur and your windshield wipers a frantic blur. I'd already been on the road for 18 hours, exhaustion creeping into my bones. But I pushed on. As I rounded a sharp curve, I caught sight of her again, standing on the shoulder, drenched, that same blue dress clinging to her like a second skin. But this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a figure, tall and thin, wrapped in shadows so thick I couldn't make out any features. The rain masked any sound, but the air was heavy, almost suffocating. I hesitated, heart pounding, the old instinct telling me to keep driving. But curiosity, stubborn as ever, made me slow down just a little. The figure raised a hand, and suddenly, the road ahead disappeared. It was like a thick wall of black mist swallowed the asphalt, swallowing my headlights whole. Panic set in. I tried to accelerate, but the truck felt heavy, like it was sinking into quicksand. The woman turned toward me, her eyes glowing faintly in the storm. I saw a smile, but it was twisted and wrong, like she was mocking me, daring me to try to escape. That night I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare with no way out. The storm raged around me, the shadows creeping closer, and the road vanished beneath my wheels. Somehow I managed to break free, the fog lifting just as suddenly as it had appeared. But from that night on, I knew this wasn't just a haunting. It was a game, a twisted dance between me and something ancient and cruel. The highway holds secrets darker than any I've ever imagined, and the woman in blue, she's just the beginning. So if you're out there driving through the night, remember, not every passenger is a person, and not every road leads home. Some roads lead to, places you'll never want to find, and some passengers never really get out of the truck. It's like she's wearing me down bit by bit, mile by mile. I'll be driving through the desert in broad daylight, not a cloud in the sky, and the AC will kick out a chill like I just rolled through an ice storm. I'll glance in the Mirror, and there she is, just a flicker, standing by the side of the road staring at me like she's waiting for her chance. But the scariest thing? I've started hearing her voice. Not over the CB, not from the back of the cab. I mean in my head, like a whisper curling up behind my thoughts. Sometimes she just cries, long, mournful wails that make my skin crawl. Other times she talks, says my name, real soft, real familiar, like she knows me, like she's always known me. The worst was last week, right after I finished a run through Arkansas. I was trying to get some shut-eye in a truck stop lot, good. Spot, well lit, couple other rigs nearby. I lock the doors, close the curtain, and lay back. I'm barely drifting off when I feel this pressure on my chest. Not like a weight, more like someone leaning over me, breathing on me. I open my eyes, and she's there. Her face inches from mine, upside down like she's hanging from the ceiling. Her mouth is open, but her eyes, they're what froze me. Black, wide, hollow. Bottomless pits filled with drowning. She whispered, "You're almost ready." Then poof, gone, just like that. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat, even though the thermometer said 42 degrees inside the cab. My breath was fogging up the air. And yeah, you guessed it, there was that damn blue ribbon again, sitting on my chest like a gift left by death herself. I got up, threw it out the window, and watched it catch the wind. Felt good. Felt like I was taking control again. But that was a mistake, big one. Because the next night I get a haul taking me through Mississippi. Nothing unusual, just a standard drive. I'm coming down this stretch of two-lane blacktop surrounded by woods, no towns for miles, when my headlights hit something standing in the middle of the road. I slam the brakes, tires screaming, and it's her. Not standing still this time. She's walking toward me. Dripping, eyes locked on mine. I threw that rig in reverse so fast I nearly jackknifed. She just kept coming, arms out, mouth wide open like she was screaming, but I couldn't hear a sound. Then my engine died. Just flat out died. Lights, off, dash dead, like the truck had been gutted. And that's when I saw it reflected in the windshield, my back seat. She was sitting there, holding the ribbon I threw out the night before, twirling it around her fingers, smiling. Real, slow, real wrong. I don't remember what happened next. Maybe I passed out, maybe I drove without even realizing. All I know is I woke up at a way station an hour outside of Jackson with my rig parked neat and proper, like I hadn't just lived through a damn nightmare. But the ribbon? It was back, wrapped around my gear shift. And this time, there was a note tucked under it, just one word. Soon. I didn't drive the rest of that day. Hell, I didn't even get out of the truck. I just sat there, doors locked, engine idling, eyes flicking between the mirrors like I was being hunted, which at that point I knew I was. Not by some psycho hitchhiker or runaway convict. No. This was something worse. Something older. Something that knew me. And I started wondering if I'd picked her up long before that night on the flooded road. Maybe she wasn't waiting for a ride, maybe she'd always been riding with me. The next time she came was in broad daylight, which made it all the more terrifying. I'd convinced myself that she could only show up at night, like most ghost stories go. But I was heading through Kansas, clear skies, big open plains, and I pulled into this gas station. Place looked decent, fresh paint, a couple other drivers there. I went inside to grab a coffee, tried to act normal, like I wasn't carrying a curse in the back of my cab. But when I stepped out, I stopped cold. My passenger door, it was wide open. And sitting on the seat was a soaking wet teddy bear, old, moldy, one eye missing like it had been at the bottom of a river. My stomach dropped. I hadn't opened that door. I never opened that door. I reached in, grabbed the bear with a napkin, and chucked it in the nearest dumpster, slammed the door shut, locked it twice. Then I checked the cab top to bottom. Empty. No puddles. No ribbons. No sign of her. But when I turned to get back in, I saw it. A handprint. Tiny. Right on the driver's side window. Just one. Right where a kid might place it if they were peering in. And next to it, scrawled in the dust from the road, "He's mine now." I swear to God I nearly lost it right there. Drove out of that station like my tail was on fire. didn't stop for hours. Somewhere around Oklahoma, I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Reflections that didn't match the road. Shadows that moved the wrong way. And then came the dreams. If you can even call them that. I'd close my eyes for just a second and I'd be underwater. Not like drowning, more like being dragged. Yanked down into a dark place where the water was thick and cold and filled with whispers. I'd see her face inches from mine, mouth open, hair floating like seaweed, those eyes boring into me. And behind her, a little boy, pale, hollow-eyed, clinging to her dress. Every time I'd wake up gasping, reaching for the wheel even when I wasn't driving. And always, always the ribbon would be there, showing up in new spots around my boot, wrapped around the rear view, tied into a bow on my damn thermos. She was reminding me that I couldn't run, that the road belonged to her now, and somewhere deep down I started to believe her. Started to feel like the longer I stayed behind this wheel, the more I was slipping out of the real world, being pulled into hers. A road with no end, no exits, just fog and whispers and the sound of water running where there shouldn't be any. I ain't crazy. I know what I've seen. I know what I've heard. And if you're a driver, if you spend your life on the highway like I do, just promise me one thing. If you see a woman in blue, crying by the roadside, looking for a ride, don't stop, no matter what, no matter how sad she looks. Because once she gets in your truck, she never really leaves. And that's when I learned the hardest lesson of all. Some rides don't end when you park the truck. I started noticing little things, stuff moving on its own, strange sounds through the vents, whispers on the CB even, when it was off. One night I caught a glimpse of her in the passenger seat sitting there, staring out the window like she was waiting for me to look her way. I never did. I kept my eyes glued to the road, praying the miles would stretch, out long enough to keep her at bay. But she didn't care. Sometimes I'd find the blue ribbon tied around my gear shift or wrapped tight round the mirror, no matter how many times I tore it off and threw it out. It was like a brand, a tether, pulling her closer. One time, I woke up to the sound of sobbing, real soft. Right beside me, heart pounding, I reached over. There was nothing there. But the tears on my cheek were wet and cold. I started talking to other drivers, share stories, and some swore they'd seen her too. Different roads, different times, but the same. Ghostly woman in blue, always crying, always waiting. Some said she was the spirit of a woman who lost her family in a crash and was doomed to wander the highways forever, searching for a way back home. Others warned she was a curse. Whoever picked her up was doomed to vanish or worse. I don't know which story's true. Maybe both. But I do know this. If you're out there driving at night and you see a woman standing by the side of them, road blue dress dancing in the wind, tears glistening on her cheeks, just keep driving. Don't stop, don't slow down. Because some passengers aren't just looking for a ride. They're looking to ride with you. Forever. I'll never forget the night I realized she wasn't just some ghost hitchhiker. She was part of the road itself. I was hauling a heavy load through the Smoky Mountains, night thick and thick, the kind of dark where your headlights only cut through a few feet ahead and every sound echoes like a scream. I was climbing a steep grade when the temperature inside the cab dropped so fast I could see my breath, even with the heater blasting full. The radio static came alive again, crackling and popping like a fire. Then that whisper, soft, but clear. You can't hide. My hands gripped the wheel tight enough to leave marks. I glanced in the side mirror and there she was, her soaked dress plastered to her body, eyes wide and hollow, fingers reaching out like she wanted to pull me through the glass. My heart hammered so loud I thought it'd bust my ribs. I slammed. The brakes and the rig screeched to a halt right on the edge of the cliff. I swear for a moment I could hear the river below calling to me, laughing. I was frozen, trapped between the engine's growl and that damn whisper. Then the radio went dead, and the temperature shot back up like nothing had happened. When I looked again, she was gone. But on the dashboard, soaked through the mud and grime, was that same blue ribbon tied in a neat bow. It wasn't just a ghost anymore. She was a warning, a curse, a shadow forever haunting these highways and the truckers brave enough to drive them. And every time I hit the road, I know she's waiting, watching, ready to ride. So if you're out there rolling down that endless stretch of blacktop, keep your eyes peeled and your foot heavy on the gas. Because sometimes the scariest rides don't come from what's in front of you, but what's sitting right there beside you. I swear to you, after that second sighting, something inside me changed. I ain't talking about fear, I've been scared before. Ran into drunk drivers, icy roads, even a guy trying to jack my rig outside Memphis once. But this was something colder, deeper, like my soul knew I'd brushed up against something ancient, something wrong. I started driving different after that. Wouldn't take night runs if I could help it. Kept the cab lit up like a Christmas tree even if I was running through the middle of nowhere. Started carrying salt too, don't laugh, Donnie swears it wards off evil. I had it in Ziploc bags under my seat, in my boots. Even sprinkled a little across the dash when things got weird. And they got weird a lot. I'd see shadow people on the side of the road. Figures that looked like they were hitchhiking, but when I passed by they vanished. I'd hear tap tap tapping on the passenger window even when I was doing 70 with no cars in sight. And sometimes when the road got real quiet, the CB would crackle to life with voices that didn't belong to any channel I was tuned into. One night I heard a little girl say, "Daddy, why did you leave me in the water?" Clear as day, like she was sitting in my sleeper. I nearly drove into a ditch, and every single time, every damn time, those moments would end the same way. The smell. That wet graveyard smell. And the sound of crying. Low, mournful. Right, behind my seat. I didn't even have to turn around anymore. I knew it was her, the crying woman. But the worst was yet to come. I got a run taking me through the Texas Panhandle, supposed to be a straight shot, easy drive. Weather was clear. Traffic light. I started thinking maybe I was past it, maybe she'd moved on. That was my mistake. Halfway through the trip, my GPS started acting up, told me to exit onto a road I didn't recognize, said it was a shortcut. I ignored it at first, but it kept rerouting, beeping, flashing like it was glitching. Out. Eventually I caved. Figured maybe it was picking up on construction or a closure I hadn't heard about. So I took the exit. Road was called Widow's Pass. Never heard of it. Looked barely paved. The second I turned onto it, my radio cut out. GPS went dark. Even my damn headlights started flickering. The temperature dropped again, like I'd driven straight into a meat locker. I felt her before I saw her. That presence, thick like tar in the air. I looked in the mirror, and this time she was sitting in the passenger seat. No transition, no build-up. Just suddenly there. Turning her head real slow toward me with water pouring down her face like tears that wouldn't stop. And her mouth opened wide, too wide, stretching like it was unhinging. But instead of words, I heard screaming. Not from her, but from me. I blacked out. I ain't ashamed to admit it. One second I was driving, the next I woke up slumped over the wheel, rig parked sideways in the middle of a field with no tire tracks leading in. Like I'd been dropped there. GPS was working again. Said I was 10 miles off course. My, hands were wet. My face, too. But it wasn't sweat. It was water. Cold. And smelling like the bottom of a lake. I looked in the mirror. There was a blue ribbon tied to my steering wheel. Now I ain't no stranger to strange, but this was beyond the pale. That blue ribbon tied tight like a gift from the grave was soaked through and smelling like rot. I didn't touch it, just stared at it for a good long minute, wondering if ripping it off might make things worse. Donnie once told me, sometimes ghosts give you things they want you to keep. You throw it away, you're throwing away a piece of them, and they don't like that. So I left it, drove with that thing hanging from my wheel like some twisted air freshener from the other side. Got back on the main highway and gunned it. Didn't even care about fuel, didn't care about way stations. I just needed to move. The only thing keeping me grounded was the hum of the engine and the vibration of the wheels on the asphalt. But the road had other plans. Just outside a little town in New Mexico, maybe an hour past dusk, the fog came back. Not rolling in natural like, but sudden, like a switch had been thrown. One blink, clear skies. Next blink, smothered in thick white soup, I flipped on every light I had, high beams, fog lights, even those little LEDs I never use. Didn't make a damn difference. Then the road started changing. I ain't talking potholes or turns. I mean changing. Trees where there shouldn't be trees. Old road signs written in some language I didn't recognize. At one point, I passed a billboard that said, "Welcome back" in blood-red letters, but the town name underneath was scratched out so deep it looked like claw marks. And the worst part? The CB radio came alive again, not static this time. Voices, dozens of them, talking all at once, crying, whispering, begging. Don't stop. She's waiting. Don't let her in. I nearly jumped, out of my skin when the volume spiked all on its own and one voice roared louder than the rest. Look behind you. I didn't want to look. I knew what I'd see. But fear makes you stupid. I glanced at the rearview mirror, and there she was. Not sitting this time, standing inside my cab, behind the seat, soaked to the bone, dress clinging like seaweed, her mouth still hanging open like she was screaming underwater. But now, her fingers were reaching for me. Long, white, and bloated like they'd been in a river for weeks. I swerved, hard. Truck skidded, horns blaring in the distance, though I couldn't see a damn car. I ended up off the road, buried half in a ditch, engine sputtering. When I looked again, she was gone. But there were wet handprints on the inside of the windshield, 4 of them, big, like a grown woman, and one small, child size. I sat there, breathing like I just ran from a damn bear, heart beating, so loud I thought it had punched through my chest. Then I heard a soft knock from the passenger side. Just 3 taps, slow, deliberate, like someone who knew I was listening. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to breathe. That knock, it wasn't loud, but it felt like a hammer against my spine. I sat there frozen, staring straight ahead, hands locking around the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. The knock came again. 3 times. Same slow rhythm, like a question waiting for an answer. I finally turned, inch by inch, toward the passenger window, and I swear to you there was nothing there, not a soul. But the glass was fogged up from the inside like someone had been breathing on it. Right there, behind the knockin'. I leaned closer, real slow, heart pounding in my ears, and I saw it. A message written in the fog, finger drawn. Let me ride. I jumped back like I'd been shot. Started the truck, wheels slipping in the dirt, engine protesting, but coming alive. I didn't care where I was going, didn't care what I hit, I just had to go. The road reappeared like magic, and I was back on pavement, tires screaming, hauling tail through that unholy fog. I didn't stop driving, till the sun came up. Pulled into a rest area just outside Flagstaff, parked under the brightest damn light I could find, and just sat there. I checked the windows, the mirrors, every corner of the cab. No water, no handprints, no ribbons. But that message, let me ride, was burned into my brain like a brand. I couldn't shake it. I started doing research. Paranormal forums, trucker message boards, old legends. And I kept coming across the same thing. Road ghosts, hitchhikers that ain't alive, spirits trying to latch onto the livin' for one last ride. And almost every time, they start with a woman in blue, always crying, always soaked. Some called her the drowned bride. Others called her the highway widow. Some folks said she was searching for her lost child. Died in a wreck back in the 60s. Others claimed she was a siren spirit luring drivers into fatal crashes so she could drag their souls down with her. But one story chilled me to the bone. It was a post by another trucker, username IronJake67, talking about seeing a woman just like I described. Same dress, same sobbing, same message on the window. He said she followed him for months, everywhere he went, even in daylight. Said he started seeing her in reflections, shop windows, puddles, the chrome on his damn wheels. Last post he ever made was 2 years ago. Just 3 words. She got in. I don't know what happened to him. Nobody does. His account went dead after that. But I know one thing. He wasn't making it up. I could feel it in every syllable. Same fear I had. Same weight on his shoulders. And now, I think I'm following his footsteps. 'Cause lately, she's showing up more. Not just at night, not just on back roads, but at truck stops, diners, even once, swear on my mama's grave, in a gas station bathroom mirror. She was behind me, standing just outside the stall crying, that damn dress drip drip dripping on the tile. I blinked, and she was gone. But the mirror stayed fogged, and when I wiped it clean, that message came back, clear as glass. Let me ride. I ain't letting her in. Not yet. But God help me, I don't know how long I can hold out.